if you're one of these people that are taking an antacid, a PPI, I should say, and you're constantly getting reflux, and look, I get it. It's fixing it, but the risks are horrendous. After 23 days, you got acute kidney injury. 6 months, chronic kidney disease. Over a year, you get much higher risk of gastric cancers. This is scary stuff.
Hey guys, welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your host Steve and Nick. Hey Steve-o.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm trying to do a you, Steve, and think of a good lead in to the topic today, but I just can't.
I was trying to think of one before. It's stressing me out in the belly.
I know, it's giving me a little bit of heartburn. Yeah.
What are we talking about today, Nick?
Oh, heartburn.
Hey!
But
that's how you lead it in.
That's how you lead it in, exactly. Yeah, like pros. More than heartburn, though. So we've actually the sort of driver for this episode was some studies that have come out that are quite worrying in regard to proton pump inhibiting medication.
PPIs,
so for reflux, which, to be honest, there is millions and millions of people in this country that are taking it. In clinic, I would see at least 50 to 60%.
Can I give you a number?
Yes, give me a number.
There was 26 million scripts written for proton pump inhibitors in 2021.
Let's put that in perspective. In Australia, what's the population? About 26 million.
but you got to remember, there's repeat.
Of course, but right, like I said, it's probably one of the most used medications that I see in clinic with clients taking it, and now you can get it over the counter.
Oh, easily over the counter. It used to be a prescription, and then it became a prescription over a certain dose, and it became what they call a Schedule 3, and now it's a Schedule 2. Now, I just want to brief about the poison schedule. So when you hear me say schedule this, schedule that. Okay, so people might be familiar with Schedule 4 drugs, which are prescription drugs like Prozac or antibiotics, those sort of drugs. You have to get them from the doctor or pharmacy medicines. Then you've got the Schedule 8 drugs that doctors can prescribe to, and they're what they call controlled substances. So they're like your very potent opioids. That's a classic one. So, if you needed painkillers, they'd have to hand write it, and so it can be forged. And it's controlled by the government. And if you go on, lots of them, you have to, if you go on, long term, like my cousin recently passed from cancer, she was on a special script so she could get them unaided, uninhibited. But they're a very controlled substance by the government. And then you got S3s. Now, S3s is when you go to your pharmacist. Probably the classic one is people get the anti-mucus stuff. You have to show your license and all that sort of stuff. That's a prescription or a Schedule 3 drug. So you can get it from the pharmacy over the counter, but a pharmacist has to prescribe it. Yep. The bottom of the food chain is S2. There's no such thing as S1. So S2 is the bottom of the food chain. Guess where PPIs are now?
I reckon they're in the supermarkets. Are they in the supermarkets?
Yeah,
as well?
they're S2.
Yeah.
So they're pharmacy medicines, or if there's no pharmacy in your small town, you can get it from anywhere. Yeah. But even going into a pharmacy, you go into a chemist warehouse with your little basket, and you just pop it in there and take it to the front and check out. So it's a pharmacy, but it's like it's like buying milk. It's pretty unrestricted. Yeah. And that's a PPI. And what's happened very recently has been and our sound guy or video guy behind the camera made us aware of this, that there is actually now a big lawsuit for PPIs. And there are class studies called the prazols, which are PRAZOLs. So they all end in that.
Yeah. So we can say brand names, I think.
Yeah.
I'd say. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So there's omeprazole, which is Losec, and pantoprazole, which is Somac, and esomeprazole, which is Nexium. So that's the chemical names. And proton pump inhibitors, a proton is a hydrogen atom with the electron removed. It's written as a H plus.
Yes.
Okay, you might see that. That's acid. And acids always have to have a H in it, like hydrochloric acid. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. Fluoric acid is HF. So acids donate a hydrogen atom. And in our stomach, we have these pumps that pump out acid, and they're called proton pumps. Yep. And PPIs are proton pump inhibitors.
So it's the acid.
Yeah. So if you're getting heartburn, and I'll give you a positive spin on it before we get into this. If you're getting heartburn, proton pump inhibitors would literally cure it.
Yes, it would, yeah. It'd cure, well, heartburn
Yeah, I
is a
know, I
symptom,
know.
but yeah, it's a hard way around it.
But you'll feel better on it.
You will feel better, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so highly prescribed. And we're going to go through what's come out with the lawsuits and and then we're going to go into a lot of the conditions that can come about from long-term PPI use.
Yep.
Quite horrendous, some of them.
Yeah.
So, and then we're going to talk about reasons for, like, because obviously heartburn is a symptom, reflux is a symptom, things like that. We're going to talk about what can be causing them.
Yep.
Because obviously, as naturopaths, we want to look at the underlying cause, the root cause.
We do.
So we look at some of those, and then we're going to talk about alternatives, because there are a lot of really, really good natural alternatives to PPIs that work just as well, and then you don't have these issues that are all coming out now. So that's just,
it's true.
People are like, oh, this is going to be boring. And so many people suffer from this, and so many people are on PPIs. If you're on them, hang around, because we will talk about reasons why and other things you can do.
Well, I mean, this lawsuit is about PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, causing kidney damage. And that's a well-known side effect. It destroys your kidneys, basically. When I say destroys it over a certain amount of time, and times like with most medicines, it's dosage or time.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, there's a woman here who's named herself Donna Johnson, who was taking Somac and a PPI for 20 years, and she developed kidney problems. Now, you might think, why is someone taking it for 20 years?
No, I don't think that, because I see it all the time.
You see it all the time. And you know what? If you take this pill that you can get from the pharmacy and it just makes you feel better, no more stomach burn, you keep taking it.
Yeah.
And prescriptions at 26 million, and that's for the stronger stuff, but you can get this over the counter, not even over the counter in S2.
You can get it at the supermarket. You can get 24-hour Nexium at the supermarket now.
Nuts in that. And so, and her kidney dropped down to 19%. Now, this is the EGFR, which is estimated glomerular filtration rate. So that should be above 70 for an adult.
Yeah, above 90 optimal.
Oh, yeah.
But so 19's pretty far
bad,
down the drain. Yeah, that's, not good.
So you're taking this medicine that's damaging your kidneys. So there's what the lawsuit's about, is there's not enough warning about this. And I wonder if I'd love to, how you always want studies, or I want to do a study. A survey would be, if someone walks out with an antacid or PPI, I'd say, are you aware that this could be nephrotoxic over a certain amount of time? Now, 20 years, that's a long time, extreme case. The data shows that if you're on it for up to just a few months, that can cause chronic kidney disease, CKD. So the average span it takes to get chronic kidney disease is 171 days.
Not long. I mean, as I said, the people the population that I see that are on it, they've been on it for a lot longer than that. Oh,
look, if you were using it for a week or two, you won't get the problems.
No, and it's designed, and I think there's a whole other issue. Doctors that are prescribing this long term, it is not designed to be used for longer. Is it six weeks or something? I think it's a really short amount of time.
Yeah.
And, people minimum a couple of months. I mean, we've got someone in the office that we won't name that had been on it since he was a child for reflux.
Really? And how old is he now? I don't even know this person.
In his 30s now? 30s probably? Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's in his 30s.
Yeah. So, and he said, I can't come off it because I've got reflux. I had it since I was a kid. I have to stay on it.
Oh, my God.
And that's what people
I like
get
that
told.
guy. I won't mention his name, but I like him. I better have a word to him.
We know he doesn't listen to the podcast that we could. But that's what I see a lot in clinic. Is I know I've been on it for a long time because it controls my reflux and, it's fine. Like, no, they're not designed long term, and these are the reasons why. And we're going to talk about cancers and everything. So there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
We get serious stuff here.
There's a lot of serious stuff.
So for those who are watching, you'd see all this stuff in front of me.
And these are obviously all available in the show notes, and down below the links will be in there. And if you want more information, you can contact us.
So if you want to Google, Shine Lawyers and class actions and all that. Class action is when a group of people get together. And there's going to be because the warnings aren't that specific. No. And do you know what? It's I can probably say my mother-in-law has severe kidney disease. She went to a kidney specialist and she was taking this. And it's like, I didn't know she was on them. Yeah. Well, that definitely causes kidney damage. Yeah. There are other drugs that cause kidney damage, NSAIDs are the big one. That destroys your kidneys. So it's the aspirin-based drugs. And again, it's all about if you were injured in the gym and you're doing deadlifts, hurt your back and you're on NSAIDs for a week, you're not going to destroy your kidneys.
No.
There is a drug called ketorolac, which is an NSAID, which is very nephrotoxic, and the TGA have only allowed 6-day supply because after that it's toxic for your kidneys. So you've got to look after your kidneys. But these are scary because I don't need a prescription.
Yeah, I mean, I knew somebody that would take 24-hour Nexium, obviously every day. Been taking it for 10 years for reflux.
All right. Well, we better get into some bad news about that then. I don't want to. There was a big study published in Oncology Letters 2024, which talks about other risks. Now, we talked about kidney disease. The other, even more scary one is gastrointestinal cancer.
Yeah.
Now, for individuals who use PPIs, and I'm quoting this, I'm looking down, for greater than 1 year, so 1 year, guess how much it increased the risk of gastrointestinal cancer?
I don't know.
Percentage.
Scared to ask.
Give us a percentage. Go on, have a guess.
50%.
50%.
20%. Did I go
It
too
increases gastric cancer by 50%.
Yeah.
Times that by 10.
There you go, see?
523%.
Wow.
Okay, and where's he pulling this figure out? This is from Oncology Letters 2024, proton pump inhibitors and the risk of gastrointestinal cancer, a meta-analysis of cohort studies. Cohort studies means you look back. So they look at the people who have taken this for more than a year and they get 5 times gastric cancers. Gastric cancers are extraordinarily common. So it's not like a cancer of the fingernail that happens once in a blue moon. Gastric cancers are probably the most common cancers out there, very common.
Yeah.
And it's increasing it by 523%.
And is it common because so many people are taking PPIs? And
Well, yeah.
a big part of it. That's,
Yeah.
500%. That's crazy. That's actually very scary. You
Very
didn't tell
scary.
me these figures beforehand. That's
that's the one I wanted to
that's the one you wanted to shock
later.
me. You shocked me. That's
But
terrible.
there are many other studies. That's a meta-analysis. So that's looking at all the studies and combining them all.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely remarkable. So all right. So we're inhibiting the protons. We're inhibiting acid in the stomach. Let's talk about the physiology of the stomach. I mean, isn't it supposed to have acid?
Well, yeah,
Nick,
we are supposed to have
help
it.
me out here.
It's a very acidic environment, and it has to be because it has to, one, break down our foods.
Yep.
Kill off any bacteria that are coming in with the foods and things like that. So it's vitally important.
Yeah.
Physiologically, we're made up quite well so that the stomach contains the acid, and we'll have a lot of sort of, measures in place. So we have the mucus layer of the gut, which we've talked about previously, and that sort of protects that acid from, affecting the gut lining and that sort of thing. So we are supposed to have a very acidic gut. That's part of it. And there's a lot of physiology. We won't go into the whole lot with the gut lining because there's a lot to it. But we do have something called parietal cells.
Parietal cells.
Parietal cells.
What do they do?
And they're specialised epithelial cell, and they are what secrete hydrochloric acid or gastric acid.
Gastric acid.
So it goes into the lumen of the stomach, and then that just obviously helps with the breaking it down of everything. It also triggers the release of digestive enzymes as well from the pancreas and bile from the gallbladder. So it all works together. So if you're shutting down your acid production, and the PPIs actually work on these parietal cells, so they shut them down, obviously. You're also limiting your digestive acid production, your bile release. So therefore, you're opening up yourself up to so many different issues. So the parietal cells are super important. They also release something called intrinsic factor, which helps to release to absorb B12 in the gut.
Yeah.
So people that have issues with intrinsic factor can have B12 deficiencies.
Okay, so if you need acid to make intrinsic factor, which you do, what would you say to someone who's on the Nexiums for 10 years? What would their B12 be problematic?
Well, 100%. So they show with multiple nutrient deficiencies. B12 is one of the big ones.
Yep.
Iron, zinc, magnesium, so many things because you're not absorbing any of the nutrients, minimal nutrients from your food because you're not breaking it down very well.
Yeah.
And then we will talk about what can happen when we've talked about previously with the digestive function, what happens if that goes awry, what can lead on to that. So Short term, yes, you're shutting down your acid production. They might think that's a bad thing. And yes, short term, it can definitely help to heal if you've got ulcerations and things like that. But longer term, not only are you stopping the acid production and creating nutrient deficiencies, you're also creating SIBOs, you're creating dysbiosis.
SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, yep.
Yeah, and so many other things that we will talk about, which then lead on to something else and something else. So someone might come to see a practitioner 20 years later and they've got chronic inflammatory diseases, they've got SIBO, they've got bowel disease, they've got all these things and like, oh, I don't know what's happened. And
gastric
20
cancer.
years ago, gastric cancers, 20 years ago, they started taking a PPI, started to dysregulate the acids and then the digestive production, which led to an overgrowth, which led to dislocation of the bacteria for small intestinal issues, which led to inflammation, which led to chronic conditions, which led to autoimmune conditions. So this is
I'm getting depressed.
I know, right? And that's the thing. People don't look at the big picture of.
No.
You want to know how the body works and then know how the medication that you're taking, how that actually is working, because then you get a better picture of, okay, if that's shutting down the parietal cells, which secrete the acid, which secrete intrinsic factor, which, helps with the triggering of these other enzymes. And then you get a better idea of what you're actually doing to your body if you're staying on these medications long term.
It's remarkable. Look, the funny thing about all this, and not the funny thing, but look, the side effect of these things is they're nephrotoxic. They damage your kidneys.
Yeah.
Okay, drugs have side effects. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the effect of these drugs are worse.
Yes.
They stop acid.
Yes.
And the only reason why people keep taking them is because it stops any heartburn, because it stops acid that causes heartburn. Yeah. And you might think, well, why are people getting heartburn? And we'll get to that reason a bit later. And people go, so and our alternative, what we think we should do about that sort of stuff. But imagine it's not actually a side effect. This is the effect.
The effect, yeah.
To stop protons, acid, being secreted.
Yeah.
I mean, that's absolutely incredible. So I mean, the stomach obviously has a major role. And, of course, we know it has acid. The acid in it, as you said, is hydrochloric acid, which is otherwise known as pool acid.
Yes.
And it's funny because when I was a chemist, there were certain, if someone was poisoned and, if they were poisoned with, say, hydrochloric acid, you never induced vomiting.
No, because you'd just burn
on the way
your
up.
esophagus, burn everything.
But also it's not toxic because it literally lives in your stomach all the time.
That's right. Yeah.
So people think acid is bad. And I remember in the early days where we had books about acid being carcinogenic and all that sort of stuff. It's funny, when you stop acid, you get cancer.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
That's right. Exactly.
So it's very, very weird. And gastric cancer is quite incredible, that this sort of stuff. It's funny, there are other drugs that are antacids, like histamine 2 receptor antagonists, but it's like, these are not a good idea.
No, and we'll talk about the connection with the histamines, why you can take the H2 blockers and things like that. So, there's a few different cells in our gut that secrete things. We've also got chief cells.
Yep, chief cells.
They secrete pepsinogen, which is converted to pepsin, which helps to break down proteins and things. And then the pepsinogen only becomes activated by the gastric acid juice, right? So if you're shutting down your acid production, therefore you are also shutting down your ability to produce pepsin, your ability to break down your proteins.
Yep.
Therefore you're not breaking down the bonds, it's getting the amino acids. What are amino acids for? Neurotransmitter production, protein carriers, muscle growth, everything. So therefore, mental health issues with the lack of neurotransmitters.
They're essential. They're called essential amino acids, not kind of optional amino acids. They're called essential
for a reason.
So there's about 9 of those, and so kind of like that's kind of important. Yeah, not only important, they're essential.
Essential. So you're not only blocking acid, you're blocking so many other functions. So that's a really important thing to know. We have G cells. So they produce neuroendocrine hormones.
Yes.
So called gastrin. We know about gastrin.
Yep.
And that's capable of directly or indirectly increasing HCl as well. Right. So there's that. We have
probably D cells is the next one.
We have D cells as well. D cells. So
what are
they secrete somatostatin.
Yep.
So that helps with suppress the release of gastrin. That helps suppress it. So that helps to reduce gastric acid production. And then we also have cells that produce like a histamine.
Yep.
And histamine helps obviously to break down foods as well. So that's one way that I help sort of with my symptom picture with histamine issues is, do you get heartburn after eating foods? Because you're increasing that histamine production. So not only histamine producing bacteria, but also the histamine that is produced to help break down our food. If you're producing too much of it, you can get the reflux.
It's incredible.
So when we're talking about, well, let's just stop the acid, we're also stopping so many other functions as well. And they all it's like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Stop one, it's going to impact the rest of them. So it's not just a matter of let's just shut down the acid and we're good.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of underlying stuff that stops. So then that creates all the imbalances and the things that we're going to talk about after.
Right, absolutely. I'm going to hit you with another stat.
Yeah.
And another guess. It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
There's chronic kidney disease, and then there's acute kidney injury, AKI. How long does it take to get acute kidney injury?
I'm going to say 3 months.
Yeah. No, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Ooh. And average 23 days, so 3 weeks and 2 days. And that's when you get your first kidney on average.
Yeah.
So Joe six-pack could be 2 weeks and Jane six-pack could be 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So quite scary. Now, where am I pulling that number out of? It's published in Nature, and it's the paper is titled "Proton Pump Inhibitors Associated with Acute Kidney Injury and Chronic Kidney Disease: Data Mining of the US FDA Adverse Event Reporting System." So that was published in 2021 in Scientific Reports or Nature Portfolio. So that's quite remarkable. I mean, 21 days.
That's actually really scary, isn't it?
Now, I'm allowed to ask about this, but our cameraman was prescribed PPIs a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago, was it? 10 years ago, yeah. So, I mean, this is everyone gets them.
Oh, look at and there's not, sorry, I'm stumbling over my words because I'm just like, it floors me how many people are actually on these medications. I reckon, 1 in 3 just about that I would see in clinic, 1 in 3, easily 1 in 3. And, you talk to people and like, I get a bit of heartburn, I just take some Nexium or whatever it is. Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
They don't realise the impact that it's actually having, that people don't think about that because their doctors don't tell them. They don't inform them of these possible dangers of taking it, and particularly longer term. And I ask all my clients that are on PPIs, how long have you been on it? Did your doctor prescribe? How long did your doctor prescribe it for? No, there was no time limit.
No.
So, and obviously I can't tell people to come off their medications. I never do because that's between the prescribing doctor and them. So I stay out of that. But most of them don't get told this is short-term only. In fact, I don't think I've ever had anyone tell me their doctor said to them this is short-term only.
Well, it gets worse. Because let's say I get prescribed some Nexium, the doctor says, I'm only giving you a week's supply. Let's, so that's safe for kidneys and we'll just see how it goes. The doctor gives someone, and I know doctors that give 3 months supplies at a go.
Yeah, I do too.
And that's not, now I'm going to ask Matt behind the camera, how many?
I had 3 repeats.
3 repeats.
3 repeats.
So what, about a month's supply times 3?
Yeah.
3 months. So kidney injury. Already.
Yeah.
That's way over 3 weeks, 3 months.
Well, I knew someone, a close person that I knew, very close relationship, they would get repeats continually. So they would go back and just get another repeat. I've got to go back to the doctor and they'd get a handful of repeats to last them 6 months.
Jeez.
They'd use them all up, go back and get another handful of repeats. And then the Nexium 24 came out in the supermarkets. Now they just take that. But as I said, 7, 8, 9 years, this person had been on them.
Yeah.
And was going to continue to
and it gets worse than that because, as you said, you can get it from you just get it off the shelf. It's an S2, Schedule 2. It was a Schedule 3, which means you had to ask the pharmacist about it, which is a layer of safety, I guess. But an S2 is like, you just walk along and you get the Band-Aids off the pharmacy shelf and then you go and get the Nexium.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
And I think the problem is, and there's some amazing GPs out there, and I think integrated GPs are great because they have a more holistic view. But I mean, most GPs, they're trained to treat a symptom. Yeah. They're not trained to fix it at a GP level.
Yeah.
So all they know is, okay, you've got acid, here, this will fix it. That's all they know. So it's like, well, if the acid comes back, just take more of it. So they're not looking at fixing the problem. That's not what they're trained to do.
No, it's a bit scary because what's causing that acid reflux we're going to get to, but it's like, okay, it's acid causing burning. Let's get rid of acid.
Yeah, and it's effective.
It's very effective.
And that's why so many people are on it, because it is effective. They don't have to address the underlying condition or the underlying driver, which we'll talk about, because a lot of them are lifestyle driven. So they don't have to change their lifestyle. No. They can just continue to take this and they can just go on their way and not change anything. And then I think that's a lot of the problem.
It's funny because it's like I'm a... I've never taken any of this stuff before in my life because I don't see a need. Acid's supposed to be there. That's a principle of natural medicine is you try and work with the body and not against it. Natural medicine doesn't have too many anti-things. But I've got some good news about antacids.
Oh, good. Give it to me.
Do you want some good news?
Yes, please. I think everyone wants a bit of good news.
This is freaky. Well...
this is interesting. Yes, this is interesting.
The title of this paper, it's published in Oncotarget, so it's a cancer journal, and it says, old drug, new tricks, proton pump inhibitors find new purpose in cancer care. And it's like, what? It uses to treat cancer? Absolutely it does. And this other paper here, the use of proton pump inhibitors as an adjunct treatment for triple-negative breast cancers, an introductory story, and that was published in 2014. So this was the original paper I found where they discovered that Nexium, a brand name here, increases the effects of chemotherapy as well as being a great treatment for triple-negative breast cancer. Now, triple-negative breast cancer means it's not estrogen dependent.
That's right.
So if you had got breast cancer and I gave you a Arimidex, it blocks estrogen levels drop, cancer hopefully goes away. This is for negative ones and it seems to help. How weird. And it is an old drug, new tricks. So, but if you haven't got triple-negative breast cancer...
Probably not the best thing.
And so it's a little bit weird, but I want to talk about that because, it's probably the time you should take it, nothing to do with your gut.
Well, that's right, exactly. And that's where it is going to be beneficial.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But I mean, 23 days and you got acute kidney injury on average.
It's just scary. That's so scary.
Matt got 3 months supply. I don't know anyone that would get less than a month's supply.
No, look, I see some clients will take it intermittently and they're aware that it's not good, so they'll take it when they need it and then put it aside, but that's pretty rare. Most people are just like, no, just take it and move on with my life and not worry about it because it works. So
nuts.
Really scary.
All right, so that's sort of another paper there. That's the one that kidney injury, another kidney one.
Yeah. So I mean, some of the and like we said, you can look online. There is a class action against Nexium, and the people are actually getting payouts. So obviously that's they've been shown that what they're saying is true.
And weirdly, that's for kidneys, not for gastric cancer.
No, that's right. Yeah, for kidneys, but gastric cancer again, another factor. So there's some. So if you're taking PPI or you're considering it or you've been told to take one, really just look into it further because there's a lot more, dangers around it than probably being told by your GP.
It's weird because the mechanism by which this stuff works to treat triple-negative breast cancer is acidifying the cancer cell.
Yeah, that's right.
And when you acidify a cancer cell, it dies.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to, but cancer it doesn't grow in an acid environment. Freaking, it's like this acidifies it and kills it. We've done podcasts on this before, so hopefully people are over that sort of alkalise your body business. So it's a bit crazy, and certainly don't exercise if you want to alkalise your body.
Well, that's right. Exactly. Don't do that.
Well, we had a staff member today that's got a sore butt because she'd done too much in the gym. And that's acid built up there.
That's right, exactly.
And her butt's not going to get cancer because it's like it's a healthy butt because it's been worked out. Butt cancer. See, we're getting technical now.
We are getting technical.
All right, Nick. Now pretend I'm an old middle-aged man, and I've got.
Hang on, I don't need to pretend, Steve.
And I'm broken down and old. You still don't need to pretend.
No.
But okay. So I mean, say I've got reflux. I mean. What is it? What can we do? What is it? Tell me about it.
So let's talk about the reasons, some of the possible reasons why you have reflux. Because if you have any symptom, you want to know the cause so you can treat the cause.
No, just Nexium. Yep.
Just chuck a bit of Nexium
and you're good to go. I'll take it for a few years. I'll be fine.
Exactly. I actually had a patient years ago that had been on it for 30 years.
Oh.
And he had no eyelashes, no hair, no eyebrows, no fingernails. He was completely depleted of everything. Horrendous.
Because he literally didn't have a functioning stomach.
No, he didn't.
For 30 years.
I don't know how he was walking around, but yeah, he suffered horrendously. So, yes, and that's because his doctor just kept saying, no, just keep taking it. Because as soon as you stop taking it, what happens, Steve?
Pain comes back.
Bounce back effect.
Yeah.
So it's even worse. So the parietal cells
cells
are shut down.
Yeah.
So what happens when you take away what's blocking them?
Yeah.
They go, oh, we don't have enough. Let's produce 5 times as much. So people go, I came off maximum. It was so much worse. So I had to go back on it again. It's because you're having a bounce back effect. So you got to take that into consideration. And I think that's also a big part of it. Sort of like the histamine, antihistamine, same thing. It's like, if I come off the histamine medication, I'm worse, so I have to go back on it. It's because you're having a bounce back effect.
The antihistamines are often used as nausea tablets.
Yeah.
Like travel calmer antihistamines and that. So
yeah, if you get motion sickness, look into histamine intolerance because that's a really strong driver of motion sickness. Yes, car sickness. I know a lot of people with car sickness, seasickness, that sort of thing. It's usually histamines.
I'm pretty good with that. I've been in some shitty weather.
I could sleep on a boat. Yeah, I could live on a boat, I reckon. Anyway, it's not a histamine podcast. We have done histamine podcast if you want to go back and look at that. But
so tell me about reflux.
Okay, so reflux. So what are some of the drivers of reflux? So reflux, heartburn, very interchangeable kind of word. It's when you get that pain in the chest and even up in the throat.
Yeah.
There's a couple of conditions. So eosinophilic esophagitis.
Yep.
Very hard to say. EOE. Which I used to see a lot of in clinic.
Do you?
I used to see a lot of.
So it's the eosinophils are kind of like an allergic sort of histamine related cell.
So it's a reaction. It's an allergic sort of thing, and you build up a lot of eosinophilic sort of cells in the throat, and they go like rings. And they can sort of narrow the esophagus.
So it's not caused by Nexium deficiency,
It's not caused by Nexium deficiency, no.
Okay, that's weird. So
that's an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
There's something called Barrett's esophagitis.
Ooh.
And that's when the lining of the esophagus, the cells change.
Yep.
And they become more like the stomach, the cells of the stomach up in the throat where it shouldn't be like that. And that can lead to esophageal cancers.
Yeah.
And that can start just from plain old reflux from something else going on in the gut. And if it's there left long enough, it can turn to Barrett. So there are two that are specific conditions. Poor gastric emptying, Steve.
Yeah.
So and a lot of that can be food sitting in the stomach and that sort of stuff. It's building up the acids. Intra-abdominal pressure.
Yeah.
So that can be from gases building up, and obviously that can push up the acids.
Yep.
Hiatus hernia.
That's a thing that lops out the side, above
so
the
bit
diaphragm.
of the stomach will push up into the esophagus.
Yeah.
That's really common cause of reflux, actually.
And you've got the most common one coming next.
Obesity.
Oh.
Obesity is a really common cause of reflux. Yeah, really, really, really common cause.
And that's simply because if you think of obesity, and especially in a male obesity, we've got the visceral fat pushing under the stomach, and it pushes up as well. Yeah, squashes your organs.
It does. It pushes up the contents of your stomach up into the esophagus and brings up the acid with it. So you go, oh, it's acid. So obesity, dysbiotic gut microbiome, which we'll talk a little bit about a bit more, but and that can go twofold. So the reflux causes a dysbiotic. So we'll get into it, but the reflux. Actually, no. Let's wait because hypochlorhydria is coming up.
Yes.
So and then high histamine producing bacteria.
Yes.
Creates that reflux. So there's some reasons for reflux, and then a subheading. Hypochlorhydria is a reason for reflux.
Right. Now, hypochlorhydria, the technical for the English speakers out there, hypo means low.
Yeah.
Hypochlorhydria is hydrochloric acid. So we're talking about low stomach acid.
Yeah, low stomach acid.
That's causing reflux.
Yeah, which is one of the most common reasons.
Yeah, it is.
But why do you have low stomach acid? It's not just, okay, you've got low stomach acid, let's build it up. There's reasons.
You're talking to me, why have I got low stomach acid? What's the first thing you'd say?
Probably ageing.
Oh, yeah, for me, yeah.
aging. As we age, we actually lose our parietal cells.
Oh, great.
So I think we
Lose
born
my
with
looks.
about 30 to 40.
Yeah. I didn't know
as
that.
as we age, we start to lose some of the parietal
So I
cells.
got about 3 left.
Probably maybe one.
My
Steve,
age?
at your age. Yeah.
Jesus.
You're lucky you even have one. And obviously, as you said, parietal cells are what produce our hydrochloric acid.
Cheeky
So as
girl.
we age, we do lose stomach acid. So it's more important to really focus on that as you get older, particularly with protein. We need more protein when we're older,
I know,
but
I
we
do.
have less ability to break it down. So
Ugh.
we need to be careful of that.
And you see, that's why a lot of older people, yes, it's exercise, but they become cachexic.
Yeah.
And they become malnourished looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right. Exactly.
that's right.
And that's because they need to really, really focus on increasing their stomach acid
Yep.
and their protein levels. But anyway, Helicobacter pylori,
Helicopter what?
H. pylori for short. I'm
Yep.
sure most people have heard of that.
So that's
it's
an
a
infection.
bacterial infection.
Yep.
You know,
It's in
like
about a
little-
third of us already.
Yeah, and it sort of burrows into the lining of the gut and also will shut down those parietal cells. And it's a really common infection. And most people don't know they've got it, and some people can have it and it's no issue. And there's different virulence factors attached to H. pylori. So some can, if you've got a particular virulence factor, it can cause gastric cancers and things like that. So you want to make sure you're checking out what it is if you have it. But you can have no symptoms.
No,
Some people have no symptoms. Or some people, I always ask people, did you ever have a time when you had a lot of burping, you had reflux and, all that? They said, no. Oh, hang on a minute. 10 years ago, I went through a really big stage of that and then it just disappeared. So that could be when you got the initial infection, but then sometimes the symptoms dissipate. And then if you have it, generally it's really easy to transmit, so the whole family can have it.
Yeah.
And I've tested families and the whole lot have had it. So that can be a reason.
Can be, yeah, for breaking it. I mean, go remember, it's got an Australian story with Helicobacter pylori.
It's a what?
It was discovered as the ulcer-causing bug.
Australian. Yeah.
And they used to treat ulcers by, giving milk and crap like that.
Yeah.
And then they discovered that it's a bacteria causing it.
Yeah,
some
they used to
people.
say it's just stress.
Yeah.
But it's a bacteria. It's actually bacteria that causes that.
Amazing.
the
And the
ulcers.
Australians discovered that.
Yeah,
Because we're the
Australians.
best.
We are.
We discovered everything.
That's true.
We have the best break dancers and everything. Oh, hang on.
No, we don't need to go there.
Well, you know how America have a gun problem? We have a gun problem too. So is that harsh? A bit harsh, is it?
Reagan.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Anyway,
Reagan.
that's quite
she's
funny.
probably copped enough crap.
No, she has.
hearing.
It's terrible.
Never enough? Okay.
Never enough.
All right.
What else can cause
Here's
this?
one for you, Steve. Chronic stress.
Oh, shit.
Right, who has it?
What doesn't that thing cause?
All right. And as we've talked about in so many other podcasts, stress shuts down your hydrochloric acid production because you're in your fight or flight.
Yep.
So your body thinks, we don't need to eat. So it shuts down digestive sort of processes, including acid. So if you have chronic stress, then you're not breaking down your food and all that sort of stuff. So then you get a dysbiosis, which creates more reflux and goes on and on and on.
It's like I think people listening to this, everyone's getting old or has H. pylori, has chronic stress. This is real. No wonder everyone's on Nexium and
I know,
Somax
right?
and
so
Losic.
many
It's
things.
like everyone's on them. And I was speaking to my darling wife last night and about what we're doing today. And she said, oh, yeah, in the hospital, they give this out all the time.
Yeah.
Because they give it out with drugs, and drugs cause a lot of gastric upset. So,
So they
give out. Yeah, and I said, well, who follows up these drugs? And they go, you know,
that's it.
That's it. They
keep
just
going.
go on it. And so they go back to their GP, and the GP said, the hospital put me on this, and they repeat a script. It's like, what? Like I'm thinking like statins and post-heart attacks, and scary shit going on in this world. All right, what else?
Autoimmune gastritis.
Oh,
gastritis
Jesus.
is a reason. And there's something called pernicious anemia.
My
And
cat
that's
Flatface had pernicious anemia.
You said that. Yeah, to give him B12 shots.
Give him B12 shots in the neck. Let's stick a needle in his neck every week.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's not good. So that's a B12 deficiency. But autoimmune gastritis can obviously shut down the production of your hydrochloric acid.
He had
So that's
bad
another
gut
reason.
issues, poor old Flatface.
There you go.
Well, he had
Poor Flatface.
lymphoma in the gut.
had a lot of
didn't
issues,
He had a lot of issues.
had a lot of
But he looked quite, what's the word? Unique.
Unique.
That's right.
Very unique. Yeah.
Very unique.
Don't show a picture of him to your kids before they go to sleep. They wouldn't sleep.
Oh, God.
Now here's another really common one: zinc deficiency.
Oh, everyone's got that.
Yeah, so many people have a zinc deficiency. Why?
like-
Well, chronic stress will reduce zinc.
Yeah.
But you need zinc in in the process one of the elements to help produce stomach acid.
Yep.
So if you're low in zinc, therefore zinc deficiency, that creates issues with the stomach. Therefore, you're not absorbing zinc, so therefore you get even more of a zinc deficiency. So that's a really big one. And here's another really interesting one: thyroid dysfunction, specifically hypothyroid primarily.
Yep.
Because it just slows everything down.
Yep.
So that can affect the stomach acid production as well. So that's not an uncommon thing. Gastric bypass or stomach surgery. I see this a lot because for one, it changes the microbiome completely.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're cutting out, the gastric bypass is that the cutting the stomach out?
Yeah. You
so they're
bypass
actually
the stomach.
taking some of it out, not just putting a sleeve on. There's one where you're cutting it out.
There is a sleeve procedure these days.
There's a couple of different things, and then the bands.
The bands, yeah.
But the cutting it out, are you cutting out some of the parietal cells as well?
Of course you are.
So you're losing half of your ability to produce acid. So that's
and I'm going to try and defend. I'm not a fan of that surgery, but there are morbidly obese people who can't control their eating or whatever. And we know there's Ozempic. We've done a podcast on that over a year ago. But some people are desperate where they're that obese where they have to do this. Now, they don't have to do it because there's dietary and exercise and all this other stuff, but this is why people do it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it because, I think if you're that sick, you need to make a big effort to look after yourself.
Well, the thing is, this is not all about stomach surgeries for weight loss, but that's a whole other issue in you're not actually teaching someone lifestyle changes. You just... and I know so many people that had that surgery that I can only eat a small amount now. So they'll eat a small bit of cake every day.
Yeah.
That's their meal, or they'll eat a pack of chips, or, they're not taught. This is not fixing their lifestyle that led them to that place.
Well, my wife works with a security guard at the hospital and she had gastric banding and she's now more obese.
Yeah, it doesn't work for a lot of people.
Didn't work for her.
Well, it's not teaching you to change your lifestyle.
No, she eats terribly. And
look, I'm sure there's also instances where people have to have it,
and it's helped.
Mortality and it's helped. So anyway, yeah. Gastritis could be another reason. That's inflammation of the stomach lining.
Gastritis, everyone gets gastritis.
Yeah.
Inflamed. Drinking alcohol is probably one of the worst things for that.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we're in Australia, we're a bunch of pissheads.
Big drinkers in Australia. I don't drink, but
shocking.
I'm not a drinker.
Okay, so I've ticked about half of these things, but not this one, which is good. What else?
Not the gastritis. Genetic predisposition.
Actually, I did have gastritis when I was on NSAIDs.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
I was on loads of them because I had arthritis.
Yeah, rips your
My gut was always bloated. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no, they're not good. But again, some people, have severe injuries and they have to be on them long-term NSAIDs. Yeah. So therefore, I see a lot of them in clinic too. They have a lot of ongoing problems with other issues because of that.
Yeah.
Whatever's the beginning started in the gut, the NSAIDs.
Yeah.
So genetic predisposition, some people have just the genetics, they don't produce as much stomach acid. And we could even say after our last week's podcast, blood type A positive might have less of the stomach acid production.
I say A's secrete less stomach acid than the O's.
Yeah, which I know for myself I definitely do. I have to work on making sure I'm getting enough stomach acid production. So there's some of the reasons, some of the underlying reasons for reflux, heartburn, that type of thing.
And you got to remember hypo, people are sitting and going, well, how does that cause reflux? And it's because the food ferments. Yeah. It doesn't get digested.
Yes, and that's a big part of it. Yeah. So, and that's where we talk about SIBOs and things like that. And SIBO can also cause reflux. But so as I said, it could be something, and this is what the progression starts. So someone could have gone through a period of really high stress. So then they're reducing their stomach acid production. Yeah. So therefore they're not breaking down their foods, as I said. So therefore it could be fermenting, putrefying. So therefore you're developing a lot more of these inflammatory and pathogenic microbes. So they're eating up all these food that's just sitting there. So they proliferate, they crowd out the good. So then you're creating inflammation. Then you're creating destruction of the gut lining because they're very inflammatory.
Gotcha.
Can lead to gut hyperpermeability, chronic inflammatory conditions from that, or autoimmune conditions.
Yep.
Then you can have, the foods not moving through the small intestine and the large intestine very fast. So it sort of sits in the small intestine. Therefore, you create SIBOs or EMOs, which is a methanogen overgrowth. And then you can end up with histamine conditions. You can have MCAS, skin conditions. So when we say these are some of the reasons, that you don't stop there because they can then lead on to and myriad of
Can you see why
conditions.
millions of people are taking antacids or PPIs? I should be more specific, because they're antacids like calcium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, which is in like that pink stuff. I can't remember the name of it.
Gaviscon.
Gaviscon, yeah.
Which I used to down a bottle of that a day after I finished competing. I told you that yesterday.
Oh, you told me that.
This is before I was a naturopath. I was getting severe heartburn after I finished competing, and clearly because I had lots of imbalances going on.
Yeah, now they're coming big bottles too.
I was getting acid so bad that it was radiating through to my back, and my back was just burning.
That's called referred pain.
Yeah.
That's remarkable, because that's it. Well, I mean, we haven't even touched on that. But if you're stopping acid in your stomach, you're stopping a lot of this stuff that you're doing. Oh, no, that's temporary because the parietal cells aren't shut down.
Yeah.
It's really the 24-hour ones that are in the studies that are causing the cancers.
Yeah.
But, you don't, I mean, why you had digestive issues because your eating was...
Well, I had lost... and again, athletes, how many people who... have maintaining a certain body weight, and I'm going to say more women than men, because women do have the lower body fat levels if they're whatever their sport, if it calls for that. I see them lost so many with gut issues, GI issues, because they're very low body weight, they're overtraining, they're under eating a lot of times, restricted eating, so that's causing a stress response, which is then impacting their gut, which then just throws their gut out, which then blah, blah, blah. Everything's domino effect. So there's nothing that's just simply, you've got reflux, let's just take a bit, there's always something. And if that's the thing, if you leave it long enough, then, and say taking the PPIs for long term, you're shutting down that acid because you had an issue at the beginning. 5 years down the track, 2 years down the track, 10 years down the track, you could be ending up with so many different conditions. And then you're going back to the doctor and saying, well, why do I have this autoimmune condition? I don't know, that's just genetic, here, you take that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it could have started right back because you had low acid for maybe you had a bit of stress for a couple of months and your acid went down, and then you've created an imbalance.
I had an infection in the gut with Klebsiella, and how'd that get there? It went through my stomach.
Yeah.
So my stomach could have been low in acid then.
Yeah.
Because A blood types have more autoimmune diseases too, like me, and low stomach acid, like me at the time, and that could have triggered it. It could be all started with low stomach. It could have. I don't know. I was 20.
Yeah.
And all I was thinking about was chicks.
Well, you were eating low stomach acid, eating lots of high refined starches, which feed Klebsiella to the hilt.
Oh.
So, and that it could have been as simple as somebody could start off with having a high starchy carb diet, and and they could feed their Klebsiella, which then if they have genetic propensity towards autoimmune conditions, they could develop autoimmunity.
Like I do.
You go, that's it. You go to see somebody and you're like, why am I have all these conditions, 20 years down the track, I'm so sick. What happened? And they say, oh, well, that's just genetics. That's what it is, which, yes, a lot of it is, but then there's the epigenetic factor, which we talk about. So if you address your issues with your reflux early, rather than just taking a PPI to say, well, that's okay, I'll just take a PPI, you're really in trouble. You really need to address the underlying cause when it happens. And because it's not a natural sort of function of the body to have reflux, it's not supposed to be up in your esophagus or up in your throat. So you really need to figure out what it is. So there's some of the underlying causes.
So what causes hyperacidity then? We better run through these bit quicker.
We'll go quickly with this one. So hyperchlorhydria, not as common.
No.
As the low stomach acid, but there is a rare condition called Zollinger-Ellison syndrome.
That's type cancer.
It's characterised by the development of tumours in the pancreas or duodenum, and they produce excessive amounts of gastrin, which stimulates stomach acid to produce more stomach acid. So that's one.
Yep.
Stress and anxiety. So initially, you can end up with high acid production, which will then becomes chronic stress to low acid production. Yeah. So, when you sort of get acute stress, and you think, I feel a bit reflux. It's because you're producing a lot more acid. Medication.
Because stresses could be you poisoning yourself. And if you ingest a poison, then it could, be, oh, God, I've got to get acid to kill it.
That's right. Yeah, your body doesn't
infections.
know what the stress is,
You've just got to protect yourself.
Yeah, it's going through all the processes. So medication. So NSAIDs initially again. So some of these things will create high acid initially, and then they'll create low acid, but the symptoms are the same. So you'll get high acid, you get the reflux, the heartburn. Then as it goes on, it becomes low acid, but you still get the reflux and the heartburn.
Fermentation.
So it's very hard to sort of distinguish.
It's one of the early, when I was training in the 90s, when I learnt that low acid, caused fermentation, and that's what rises up, the gases rise up and burn the esophagus. that's remarkably different to medicine. It's one of those differences I found that reflux is considered too much acid. Stop it.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I think we're right on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can talk about how you can tell if it's high or low acid too, just at home. Genetic factors, so we'll rip through these. Excessive production of gastrin, hypercalcemia, which is high levels of calcium in the blood, so from hyperparathyroidism and things like that. Smoking, because it stimulates the production of acetylcholine, which then signals stomach acid to produce more
Makes
acid.
your brain feel good and more alert. That's what people smoke for.
Exactly. Alcohol irritates the stomach lining, stimulates the release of more acid
'Cause it's a
initially,
toxin,
and then the longer term it shuts it down and you get the acid. Caffeine and carbonated beverages. So caffeine stimulates gastric acid. It's also a mucosal irritant, which is why a lot of people say, I use it to go to the bathroom because it's irritating the mucosa. So your body's going, get rid of it. And carbonated beverages, obviously the gases and that sort of thing. So, and then the rebound effect of acid suppressing medications, as we said, can be a factor as well. So there's so many underlying reasons.
Yeah.
And then those reasons, and that's sort of the start. So those reasons then lead on to things, as I said, like SIBOs and EMOs or other dysbiosis and inflammatory conditions and things like that. So you've got to work your way backwards to what was the initial driver.
So you said something before about an at-home test.
Yeah. So if you want to know if you've got high acid or low acid, take some apple cider vinegar. If you feel better, then you have low stomach acid. If you feel worse, you have high acid.
Now, apple cider vinegar is a dilute of about 4% acetic acid, which is a type of acid you find in vinegar. It's non-toxic. And obviously you put it on your fish and chips. No, I don't do it. On my old days, I used to do it. But the vinegar is that so it's not toxic, but it tastes toxic.
Oh, see, I love it.
You love it. Oh, my God.
And I will also premise too, if you have a lot of inflammation and severe inflammation in the esophagus and you have low acid, it'll still burn. So you can have low acid and have it burn because you've got more inflammation in the esophagus. So also you just probably want to work with a practitioner if you're having those issues. But that can be a way to tell pretty easily.
I know our videographer was telling us earlier, Matt behind the camera, for those who are listening, who was coffee, wasn't it? That was your,
And fat.
And fat.
Coffee and fat, yeah.
Sounds like a lovely lunch, coffee and fat.
Coffee and fat. Well, what about bulletproof coffees? People are doing fat
Oh,
in
they
their
do,
coffee.
don't they? Yeah, they put butter.
I was fat.
Oh, you were
He
fat.
was fat.
I don't want to say that about him.
Okay, there you go. He was fat.
He's into running now and everything.
Yeah, he's super healthy now.
He rides to work. He rides to work, doesn't he?
He does ride to work.
He rides to
He
work.
doesn't pedal.
No, rides a motorbike to work.
Or if even he rides his bike, it's electric.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the battery died and he said, I have to push it home. I said, just pedal it.
No, what? Don't pedal
I
bikes.
don't pedal the bike.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway.
All right, Nick. So how do you investigate all
Okay,
this?
so as I said, we want to look for the root cause of what's causing the reflux.
Yes.
Because the longer it goes on, as we said, the more issues you could
It's
end
not
up
an
having.
Nexium deficiency, so that's not the answer.
That's right, exactly. So my first stop's usually a gut microbiome testing. We have really high level testing now, metagenomics testing now, DNA level testing, really, really cool. SIBO or EMO testing. So EMO's methanogen overgrowth, so the breath testing.
Yeah.
See whether you've got SIBOs, and that could be contributing to the refluxes. Urea breath testing for H. pylori, Helicobacter, which you said. Endoscopy obviously is one of the first things you do because you want to check for anything sinister that's maybe going on in the esophagus or anything like that. So there are a few things that we can do. That you can go
and so the endoscopy and they also often do a up the other end too.
Colonoscopy as well, So do both ends.
And you can meet in the middle. No, you don't meet in the middle. It's nowhere.
And I will say this because I get a lot of clients say, well, I've had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy, so and nothing showed up. I'm like, that's great, but it doesn't look at what's going on in your microbiome, your colonic microbiome, or even in the small intestine.
No.
So it's not telling us anything about what's going on in the gut. It's just telling us that your colon's clear and your esophagus is clear.
Yeah, I was speaking to my mum this morning about colonoscopies. She's never having another one as long as she lives. She's 81.
Yeah.
So she was just telling me about all the cameras.
You have to take the things to flush everything out.
Yeah, she said, I can't even drink anything orange juice here because it reminds me of the magnesium salts they used to give them diarrhea. Oh. Amazing. Yes. All right, so lifestyle, you've written here MMC.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So some lifestyle things you can do to alleviate some of your reflux.
Yeah.
You're investigating underlying causes.
Sure.
So there's something we have in our intestines called migrating motor complex.
Yep.
Migrating motor complex. So that's basically a function that pushes the stool through.
It's like a
the colon and
peristaltic
out.
action. Yep.
Peristaltic action. So this is only activated 3 to 4 hours after your stomach's finished eating. So long as you're eating, it won't activate. So you have to. So if someone's having breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, snack, and they go to bed, they're never activating their migrating motor complex. Therefore, they're creating stagnation in their stool, in their bowel. So they're having slower transit time. Therefore, they're creating, like some sort of dysbiosis that can be going on, and creating reflux. So I see that quite a lot, migrating motor complex issues, and that's really common in SIBOs and things like that. So not snacking continually throughout the day. Like give your gut a rest, give it a time to actually go through it. This is like the sweeping motion. It cleans everything out. But it has to be, you have to sort of 4 to 5 hours without eating. So it starts to activate 3 to 4 hours after your last meal. And then it sort of goes for an hour. So 4 to 5 hours, most people who say don't eat for 5 hours, you think this slit their throat, a lot of people.
It's probably one of them, me. It's funny because before you're talking about snacking and I smirked a bit because just before we came in here.
You laid me out with the snacks.
I gave you 3 different snacks.
I know. Healthy snacks.
Apples, nuts, and
a
protein bar.
Protein bar. Yeah. So
I'm thinking, oh, geez, I've screwed your MMC, haven't I?
My MMC up altogether. But yes, but no, if you can't go that long, and we've talked about this before, you might have some metabolic inflexibility, that sort of thing. So you should be able to.
There is a thing that we don't talk about enough, I don't think, and it's not so much off topic here. It's discipline. Like I'd rather have great discipline than great motivation. People say I'm not motivated to go to the gym. You don't need to be. Just to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And eating's the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I had breakfast at 7 o'clock, and you want to eat lunch at 1 o'clock. It's like, I can't last that long. Discipline. You're not going to die.
Yeah.
You don't die of starvation in 6 hours.
No.
And so think of that. If you're not motivated, and you try to be disciplined about it.
Yeah. And if you really struggle and you're having sort of low blood sugar issues or that's, but I have hypoglycemia, well, then you're having issues with your insulin sensitivity.
Yes.
So therefore then you need to look at that.
Yeah.
You've got metabolic issues.
Yes.
You really should be able to go along quite a while without eating if you're metabolically healthy. So
absolutely.
That's a whole
hours,
thing. Yeah. Mindful eating, which I talk about with all my clients. It's like when you're sitting down to eat, take some deep breaths.
Yeah.
So switch on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. You can do that by diaphragmatic breathing. Chew your food really well. People just usually scoff it down, and Matt behind the counter's laughing right now.
Why? I'm a bit guilty of that too.
Yeah, well, so many people like that. I just quickly rush my food down while I'm doing something else. So don't rush your food. Chew your food. Don't have big gulps of water with your food because you're diluting your acids. So that's
I'm
a really
big fan
one.
of that.
Yeah, really big one. And don't eat when you're in a stressed state. Or if you're running around, or if you've lunched, you've got 5 minutes to eat lunch, and you're stressed and you're slamming it down. Don't just have a tiny little snack and eat later when you're calmer, because that will all shut down the production of your stomach acid and enzymes. Therefore, you end up not being able to digest your food well, which then creates a bit of reflux possibly, or longer term dysbiosis. So that's a really easy thing anyone can do.
Oh, and one of the things people go, am I hungry? Oh yeah, it's 1 o'clock, time to eat.
Yeah, it's lunchtime.
It's like, don't let this thing or the watch, I haven't been more watch today, it's a bit weird, eh? But it feels a bit naked without it, actually.
Oh, there you go. I love your watches.
But it's it's I love your wrists.
What do I do with my wrist?
The chewiness.
Yeah, no, scarred.
So you've got a vicious dog.
No.
See, I told you should get a cat.
Puppy bites. He's out of it now. That's all out. That's the fallout. That's scarred now.
The fallout. now he's massive and he could rip your head off. Vicious dog.
Rip my head off.
But so don't let time dictate, especially if you've got a job that, I understand if you're on a shift work and all that, but a lot of us don't, and they just let the time dictate when they should eat.
Yeah.
If you're not hungry, don't eat.
No.
Because
and if you're stressed and if you're rushing, don't eat. Don't just have something tiny to tide you over until you can sit down and eat. It's going to be much better for you.
Absolutely.
Avoid specific foods. So there's specific foods that really do contribute to a lot of reflux. So things like chocolate, spicy foods, caffeinated beverages, things like that. So they can be a factor. Interestingly, someone said to me the other day, I think it was Matt actually, about the spicy food. Was that you? The spicy food and the reflux. A lot of times it can be if there's inflammation. And obviously the spices and irritating that inflammation. So that can be part of it. So if you're getting issues with spicy food, could be inflammation.
Oh, yeah, that's problematic.
Raise your head when you're sleeping.
Yes.
So you can either prop your head up with pillows. You can prop your whole bed head up a little bit. And, and it doesn't have to be much, just enough so your head's just above your feet.
Yeah.
And that can help with sort of the retrograde sort of
Clever.
back. And then there's something called heel drops if you have a hiatus hernia.
Oh, yeah. We were taught
Old
this.
school. It's very old school. And it works for some people.
Yeah.
Some people it doesn't, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
And basically, your first thing you get up in the morning, you drink about half a litre of warm water on an empty stomach, and then you stand up and you get up on your toes and you drop down on your heels, slam down, thump down. And the theory behind it is the weight of the water in the stomach pulls it down because you're wanting to pull your stomach back down where it should be instead of being up into your esophagus. And that can help. And some people it works, other people doesn't. But hey, it's worth a try.
Can't hurt, might help.
So there's some lifestyle factors.
All right, okay, that's good lifestyle. What about treatments? What things would you give with someone with gastritis? There's tons.
There's so many things.
Natural medicine loves the gut. We have so many things for it. But give us some of the treatments you'd recommend.
And this is funny because so many people are on Nexium because it's such a common condition, but it's one of the easiest things to treat in natural medicine.
Yeah, it is. We're good at this.
So obviously treat the underlying cause is the first thing I would say before we do anything, right?
So stress, say you can't, say it's genetics or something else going on.
But there is symptomatic relief you can get. So, and I always recommend, this is probably the first thing I recommend if someone's on a Nexium or wants to get off a Nexium, is slippery elm powder.
Yeah.
Because it has a very similar effect. It coats the GI tract, so it reduces inflammation. It protects it from the acid. It's also a prebiotic, so it's helping with the gut, that type of thing. And it can be really effective, and you can have it multiple times throughout the day, 4, 5, 6 times a day. You can't overdose on it. Oh, well, I guess you can, like anything, but just don't have loads of it. But a teaspoon 3 or 4 times a day is fine. Powder, not the capsule. Some people get the capsules. Doesn't work.
No, it says hi to the hiatus and goes flying past.
Keeps going straight down, right? It doesn't coat anything. So you need the actual powder, mix it up, make a nice paste out of it.
Hi, hiatus.
Yes, yeah. So that's a really good for symptomatic relief. And the other thing that's really good for symptomatic relief and is also healing is licorice.
So I get the bullets and just pop.
Yeah. Chocolate coated, of course.
Of course. Well, what else would this be?
What else would there be? Yeah, no, licorice is mucilagenic, which it's anti-ulcer.
We're talking about the herb, the root.
Licorice root.
Glycyrrhiza glabra or whatever that name is.
Glycyrrhiza. So really, again, it's anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
It helps to heal ulcerations and inflammation and that type of thing. So it's very healing. And it's protective as well. So it's really good. You can get deglycerized licorice if you have blood pressure issues. I usually use DGL, deglycerized for everybody anyway, because even with adrenal issues, you can't have licorice if you've got pretty high cortisol and things because you'll shoot your...
It mildly inhibits 11-hydroxysteroid beta dehydrogenase, which is an enzyme that breaks down cortisol.
Yeah.
So you end up with more of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, here's another one of my famous stories when back in the day when I was and I was ill. I was given by a naturopath a product that had a lot of licorice in it, and I had extremely high cortisol at the time and everything. And and this is not a word of a lie, within 7 days I put on 5 kilos of fluid.
Whoa! Because
of the retention of it was horrendous, and I was just sloshing every time when I walked. It was horrendous. So they did that wrong. But
a bit too much.
If you have any hyperadrenal issues, just go to the DGL. Here's another really healing one: is zinc carnosine.
Oh, it's good for the gut.
Really good for the gut.
I got the wife on zinc carnosine.
Yeah, so good. So the carnosine stops the absorption of the zinc, systemic absorption, so it stays localised, which then works on reducing inflammation, ulcerations, and really, really good.
I've got it on a normal zinc too.
Yeah, normal zinc's good, Marshmallow, Steve.
Toasted?
Toasted, yeah. I love toasted marshmallow. No, the herb marshmallow.
Oh, shit, you take the fun out of everything.
Really good. It's emulsient, really healing. I thought you were going to say something then, sorry.
No, I was going to be cheeky, but I'm not going to say
cheeky,
it.
No. Golden seal.
Oh, Hydrastis canadensis.
Yeah, the reason being It's so cheap. Get it anywhere. No, it's endangered. So if you can avoid it because it's super expensive.
Yeah.
But it's great for any mucous membrane issues.
Yeah.
And it's also antimicrobial. So it will help with any gut stuff and it'll help with mucous membranes. So that's a really good one. But it is very expensive and you probably won't be able to find it anywhere.
It used to be the queen of mucous membranes.
Yes. Yeah.
Why wasn't it the king? Oh, that's right. It was the queen was alive then when I studied.
That's right, yeah.
Now it's the king?
It's the king now, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so this one here, hydrochloric acid.
It's what I used to give in
HCl.
my days. Yeah.
This one can be really good because you're just replacing the hydrochloric acid that you're not producing, right? And the old school of training used to be keep taking it until you feel a burning sensation.
Oh, yeah.
And then, drop it back and you're at your limit.
Yeah.
But now they're saying, no, don't do that. Just take one with a meal, see how you
take
go.
betaine hydrochloride, so it's
So it's usually
trimethylglycine.
HCl with betaine.
Yeah.
Usually you'll see the betaine in it as well.
Okay.
So that can be quite good. Digestive enzymes, again, so generally combining the two, digestive enzymes and the HCl is a good combo. Aloe vera.
Hello, Vera. How are you?
Anti-inflammatory.
Oh,
Oh, wow, it's an
I'm
oldie
trying
but
to
a
think of
baddie.
trying to think of clean jokes now after your dirty one.
No, the dirty
that
one
we
got flipped out. We didn't need to talk
I know,
about
we
that.
edited that one.
And if it doesn't, then the cameraman's going to get in big trouble.
That was a funny joke, though. That was
Yeah,
good.
it was pretty funny. Moving on. Chamomile. So
Yeah.
it's very calming on the gut as well. It's antispasmodic, that sort of thing.
So this is a good one, helps you sleep too. So you may want to take this one in the evening.
Yeah, really good. You can do chamomile teas, things like that. And then, so this is another carminative fennel.
Yeah,
so that can help
great.
with spasmodic issues and things like that. And
Yep.
the bloating. Peppermint can be really good, and this is a good way to know if you have GORD, which is gastroesophageal
Reflux disorder.
So that's where the esophageal sphincter, I keep pointing to my chest here, is loose. And
Right.
so the acids are coming up. So what peppermint does is it loosens that sphincter. So if you have peppermint and you have worsening reflux, you pretty much would say you've got a loose esophageal sphincter.
Jesus.
So be careful with that one, or that's a good way to tell. Any sort of bitters are really good, so gentian.
Yeah.
And you can do bitters at home. So you can do rocket, you can do radicchio, you can do, cruciferous vegetables. You can make a little bitter salad up to have before your meal.
Yeah.
Put some lemon juice on it, apple cider vinegar, something like that. And that can help to build up the acid in your gut.
And the reason being is because bitters in nature are usually poisonous.
Yes.
So the body makes more acid to destroy the coming poison. But, of course, lettuce is not poisonous for us.
No,
They're just
small
bitters.
amounts. Yeah, so that can be a really good way to sort of bring the acid up in your gut. If you have low acid, apple cider vinegar, as I said, another. It's also very good to have before meals. I say that a lot. Ginger.
Ginger.
Really good digestive aid, so it helps to get things going as well.
Love gingers.
Quercetin is really good because it's anti. I'm going to keep talking. I don't know what that joke was, but I'm looking at each other. Quercetin is really good because it's anti-inflammatory.
Yep.
It's also antihistamine, so if it's histamine-driven issues in the gut, it can be really good, and it's for healing.
Yep.
And then, there's so many different things we can do specifically for gut healing. Glutamine is one. You have to high dose glutamine, so 20 to 30 grams.
Really
30
high
grams plus.
for this,
Is pretty, and there's other healing ones. Vitamin A is healing on the gut, vitamin D, things like that. But symptomatic relief, why you're looking at underlying causes, I would probably be going slippery elm, licorice. You can even go your marshmallows and things like that, and that can be really soothing. So get into that. If you've got to pick two, licorice, deglycerized licorice and slippery elm, instead of your PPI, obviously talk to your doctor before you come off any medications, all that sort of thing. If you do decide to, that can be good symptomatic relief while you're looking at the reason for the issue, rather than going PPIs and having the potential issues of possible kidney issues, gastric cancers, all the things that are coming out now.
Yeah, it's this is one of those things that you really got to get onto. If you're one of these people that are taking an antacid, a PPI, I should say, and you're constantly getting reflux, and look, I get it. It's fixing it. But the risks are horrendous. After 23 days, you got acute kidney injury. 6 months, chronic kidney disease. Over a year, you get much higher risk of gastric cancers. This is scary stuff.
Plus all the underlying nutrient deficiencies of the low stomach acid. The dysbiosis, the SIBOs, inflammation, the leaky gut, the everything. Aside from all that stuff that comes with low acid long term.
B12, lack of energy. You've got lack of red blood cell making.
Yeah,
you feel
iron
fatigued.
deficiencies, all that sort of thing. Malabsorption.
This is scary stuff, eh?
Protein deficiency. So many things. So.
Well, I mean, they've got to see people like you, and if you're having gastric issues anyway, because naturopaths are great at this.
Naturopaths are
Nicole Brown Naturopathy. If they want to see you, just Google your name, Nicole Brown Naturopathy, and but someone like you is also good to fix this because we are good in the gut.
Yeah,
naturopaths are good in the gut.
Yeah, good in the gut.
And I don't think Nexium long term is a good option these days.
Definitely not long term.
I mean, there's a court case on it.
Yeah, and as I think Matt said, they're actually been doing payouts now. So there is sort of evidence of guilt in that.
Yeah.
Payouts.
Oh,
so
the literature.
Guilty.
I've thrown it all on the floor
the
now.
scientific papers, as you said, the links will be below to the papers if you want them. If you have any other questions, add a comment below.
Please.
You know, if you had any issues with Nexium or if you're having issues with reflux, let us know down below.
Yep.
And like that.
I'm pointing down too, so it looks clever.
Yeah, and it looks clever.
It's funny because we're just pointing at the table. I know. It's
all the
this
fancy stuff will be added up.
I know. You see people on the videos, they go point to this and they point to that.
I know, they do the things.
And imagine doing it without that. It just looks weird. Anyway,
I know, but if you listen to this, watch the YouTube because Matt does put funny stuff up.
He does put funny stuff.
Usually at my expense, but whatever.
He made you look a fat head before.
He did. Maybe gave me a real fat head before. Yeah, fat head and tiny arms.
That was funny.
I know.
That's why I called you T-Rex.
That's right. Yeah, no.
Well, look, this is about all we've got time for today, but this is great. The studies this has been a fun one.
Really eye-opening. So for a lot of people, and as you said, it's one of the most prescribed medications. So we'll just look into it a bit more. Do some research.
Not even prescribed. You can get it from over the counter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even non-prescribed medication, yeah.
Scary stuff. All right, well, we'll see you all next week, Nic.
Yeah. See you guys.
See you guys.
And it's kind of such a thought. I'm not even going to go there. And then,
oh my God, we're married now.
Bleed that out. I don't know why I thought it.
Nic, that's brilliant.
No. This will be bleeped out. Yeah, no. I've been hanging around Steve way too long.
Oh, Nic, that's brilliant.
No, it's not.
I can't believe you said that.
You're so taking that out.